Asyato sadyo Babhuva prakrita shisho. Vaishnavis. One more, please. Word meaning. Shri Sukhavacha. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Iti Uktva, after instructing in this way, Asit remained. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tushnim, silent. Bhagavan, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atmamayaya, by acting in his own spiritual energy. Pito sampashyatoho, while his mother and father were factually seeing him. Sadhya, immediately. Babhova, he became Praknitaha, like an ordinary human being. Sishoho, a child. Is there any way to have these fans a little less full speed? Either on or... Okay, how about we turn these on since you don't have notes flying around in the wind, and this one can go off. Is that possible? I can't guarantee, but if you turn it off and I look at these, it might be a little better class. No guarantee, but I think I've had a better chance. Okay, translation. Sukadev Goswami said, after thus instructing his father and mother, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, remained silent. In their presence, by his internal energy, he then transformed himself into a small human child. And then there's blocks. In other words, he transformed himself into his original form, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:6, Sambhavamayatmamayaya, whatever is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is done by his spiritual energy. Nothing is forced upon him by the material energy. This is the difference between the Lord and an ordinary living being. The Vedas say, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shuyate, Swabhavika Jnana Bala Kriya Cha, from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6:8. It is natural for the Lord to be untinged by material qualities. And just like us, we're unhinged by material qualities. But the Lord's untinged. I had to read it twice when I first read it. I was like, untinged? He's not tinged by material qualities. We're unhinged by material qualities. And because everything is perfectly present in his spiritual energy, as soon as he desires something, it is immediately done. The Lord is not a prakrita shishu, a child of this world, but by his personal energy, he appeared like one. Ordinary people may have difficulty accepting the Supreme Controller, God, as a human being, because they forget that he can do everything by spiritual energy, Atma Mayaya. Non-believers say, Prabhupada uses this word, non-believers say, how can the Supreme Controller descend as an ordinary being? This sort of thinking is materialistic. Srila Jiva Goswami says that unless we accept the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as inconceivable, beyond the conception of our words and mind, we cannot understand the Supreme Lord. Those who doubt that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can come as a human being and turn himself into a human child are fools who think that Krishna's body is material, that he is born, and that therefore he also dies. And the Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto, 4th chapter, verses 28 and 29, there is a description of Krishna's leaving his body. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, quote, when all the members of the Yadu dynasty met their end, Krishna also put an end to himself. And the only member of the family who remained alive was Uddhava. How is this possible? End quote. Sukadeva Goswami answered that Krishna, by his own energy, destroyed the entire family and then thought of making his own body disappear. In this connection, Sukadeva Goswami describes how the Lord gave up his body. But this was not the destruction of Krishna's body. Rather, it was the disappearance of the Supreme Lord by his personal energy. Actually, the Lord does not give up his body, which is eternal. But as he can change his body from the form of Vishnu to that of an ordinary human child, he can change his body to any form he likes. This does not mean that he gives up his body. By spiritual energy, the Lord can appear in a body made of wood or stone. He can change his body into anything, because everything is his energy. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shuyate. As clearly said in Bhagavad Gita 7:4, Bina Prakritir Ashtada, the material elements are separated energies of the Supreme Lord. If he transforms himself into the Archamurti, the worshipable deity, which we see as a stone or wood, he is still Krishna. He is still Krishna. I was saying that's interesting, like the deity is still Krishna, or the deity is still Krishna. Yeah? Therefore the Shastra warns, Arche Vishnor Shiladir Gurushu Naramatihi. One who thinks that the worshipable deity in the temple is made of wood or stone, one who sees a Vaishnava guru as an ordinary human being, or one who materially conceives of a Vaishnava as belonging to a particular caste, is Naraki, a resident of hell. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear before us in many forms, as he likes. But we must know the true facts. Janma karma tume divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. Bhagavad Gita 4:9. By following the instructions of sadhu, guru, and shastra, the saintly persons, the spiritual master, and the authoritative scriptures, one can understand Krishna. And then one makes his life successful by returning home back to Godhead. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Is that where the water always sits? Way back there? They always put the water over there for the speaker? Nobody ever drinks it? What well is it from? Maybe that's the question to ask. Okay, thanks for the warning. Namo Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharine Nirvasesha Shinivani Pashtatari Satarine. So first I just mentioned it's a pleasure again to be in Sri Mayapur Dham, which is of course auspicious in so many ways. It's the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's the place of his eternal pastimes. It's the home of ISKCON, our international headquarters, and the TOVP is coming up outside. And as Srila Prabhupada said, it's his place of worship. So from many angles of view, this is an extraordinary place. And appropriately, we're reading from an extraordinary transcendental literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And here particularly, we're reading this very, very beautiful and interesting section of the Lord's appearance. And this is a very critical verse. It's kind of a pivotal point in the whole story. So Devaki and Vasudeva are in jail. Many of their sons have been killed by Devaki's brother, the evil Kamsa. And now Krishna, God, has appeared in his full regalia. And it's described in several verses. He's beautiful flowing hair, he's bedecked with jewels, he's carrying his weapons, he's got 4 arms. Pretty impressive sight. And then he explains, don't worry, there's some glorification, and he reciprocates with them. And then he says, don't worry, everything's okay. And then just here, he transforms himself into, as described, uses that word, transformed. Prabhupada, BBT should have got a, what's the term, legally rights to a word? What's it called? Copyright. BBT years ago, if we just imagine if we'd copyrighted the word transform or transformers, TOVP be paid for, isn't it? We have to have vision on these things. You know, we missed another chance, but there'll be more. So then he transforms himself into a small human child, and he says to his father, take me over the river. And from there, the whole story unfolds. So as I was reading this, I couldn't help but thinking about how pastimes like this, they evoke different responses in different people. And as devotees, when we hear these pastimes, we're pleased. It's inspiring. Wow, Krishna's really amazing. Like the chapter in the Krishna book, also same canto, right? Wonderful Krishna. Probably title that one chapter, Wonderful Krishna. So we think, oh, this is wonderful. And we're pleased by hearing about the Lord's pastimes. And to use the word that Prabhupada chooses in the purport, non-believers, those that aren't devotees or maybe are a little envious, we all know their response is a little different, isn't it? Typical response, no, you use American type of phrases if I can. That's my main cultural source in this life. The non-devotees say, no way, that's not possible. You know, and then the ones that are a little more aggressive, they'll say, you don't believe that stuff, do you? I can remember years ago distributing books in the airport. Every once in a while, an airport pilot would walk by and kind of, you know, he'd have a book that he bought or found someplace, and he would like open to some description about the universal form or something like that. So you believe that stuff? And he would say to whoever we're talking to, these people are crazy. They believe this stuff, etc. So the non-believers, oftentimes, they react like that. But devotees, you know, our thought is, well, why not? Krishna's God. He, as Prabhupada's pointed, he can do anything. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it beautiful? He can do anything he wants. And look at this amazing, wonderful pastime. And this is just the beginning Keep reading. It gets more exciting. But the non-believers will say, I don't believe that. I don't believe that stuff. And we might even, maybe some of our friends, we say, why don't you come to the temple? No, I'm not going to go to the temple. I don't believe that stuff. Isn't it? You say, well, what are you going to do tonight? I'm going to the movies. Really, what are you going to do? I'm going to spend about $20. I'm going to watch a new movie about a superhero. Right? And the stories often are something like this. It's about this superhero. He's got all kinds of mystic powers. And he can do all kind of amazing. He can get bigger than other people. He can get smaller. He can change his form. He transforms his. And in this particular new version of it, the hero, he's a really good guy. And his parents, they're also superheroes. But see, they were overwhelmed by this demoniac other person who misuses his powers. And he subdued them and he had them captured. So the hero of the film, he appears in this like really powerful form. And then he transforms himself into a baby. And he escapes in that way. And he comes back and saves everybody at the end. Do you want to come with me? Only costs $20. And we say, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's just the first chapter. Somebody read our book, So these kind of things, these kind of things, and now our devotees will say, wow, cool, great plot, isn't it? I fly a lot. There's movies everywhere around you. And I've never taken account, but so many of them, it's just superheroes. They spend millions of dollars making movies and billions of dollars in profits or something like that. And they'll say, non-devotees say, wow, cool, great movie, great plot, that was exciting, isn't it? And they'll tell all their friends, you got to come see this. And they'll wear T-shirts, right? They wear T-shirts and hats, and sometimes they have conventions. They dress up like they're a superhero. But if we try to tell them, well, actually, Krishna's superhero pastimes are much more exciting than whatever you have in your little 2-hour movie. And besides, you watch that movie 3 times, it gets boring. You read this every time, there's more to learn. Their response is, same thing, no way. No way. But we understand, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that the whole opulence of the universe, beyond even things we can experience, just within this one universe, he says it's just a spark of my splendor. So to kind of put it in modern terms, whatever they can dream up in all their science fiction movies and books and exciting things, it's just a spark. It's a spark of Krishna's pleasure. But because people are materialistic, because they're bewildered by the material energy and its temporary allurements, they forgot. They've forgotten Krishna. They don't believe there can be such a person as Krishna. So we can see by we just observe the world. Prabhupada says we should observe the world and see how it functions. We can see people, they want to be excited by these kind of stories. They want to be excited by these kind of heroes with mystic powers and things. They want to believe. In their hearts, they want to believe. They want to believe in superheroes. They want to believe in glorious adventures. They want to believe in like amazing, fantastic love stories. Right? We've got 10th cantos coming up. Krishna's so amazing. He divides himself or manifests himself in so many forms. So each girl thinks the hero is with her. Wow. That we make a lot of money in that book, right? They sell all those kind of books in the grocery store lines, and everybody wants to read these different kind of stories. So inside people's hearts, they're hankering. They're hankering to have this kind of excitement. And therefore they go from movie to movie. They go from book to book. They go from job to job. They go from vacation to vacation, right? Like these days they have extreme sports. Right? Like sports aren't enough. You got to try extreme sports. What's kind of extremely interesting. You never heard that term? Extreme sports. I don't, there's a variety of them, but they're like very risky sports. So they're so extreme, people die doing extreme sports all the time. They're trying to stretch the material experience into something that satisfies their heart. But it's not possible. And they go from birth to birth looking for that experience, for that excitement, planet to planet, right? Species to species. So therefore, in his purport, Prabhupada, describing the non-believers, they don't believe. But he's making this case, and it's interesting. He goes very logically, so we'll look at the purport a little bit here. He makes this really strong case. No, don't read this thinking it's just a story. He's kind of He's pleading with us. Don't read it as if it's just a story. This is real. Krishna does have these powers. He does have this opulence and this beauty, and he does have these amazing purports. It's like his first point, amazing pastimes. And his first point in the purport, Prabhupada explains that actually it's natural. Like it's like the English, they have expression second nature. It just comes natural. So he's saying it's not, people may think, well, how is this possible? Well, it's possible because it's within the realm of Krishna's abilities. He's just such an amazing person. Just like we may see some ordinary athlete, like gymnast, and I can see, especially as my body gets older, even like watching some of the brahmacharis dance in the I think, wow, I used to be able to do that. Once in a while, kirtan's really good. But then you think about, people that do, I don't know gymnastics at all, triple somersaults and these amazing things. I don't have the ability to do that. But just because I can't do it, doesn't mean somebody else can't. And that's probably a story about the frog in the well. How big is the well? Is it 2 times, 3 times? You can't imagine it because his experience is limited. So in the same way, for me to think about, some gymnast who can do these amazing feats, I mean, it's impossible for me to conceive of doing that. I couldn't do it. Absolutely couldn't. I could train for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, because time factor's there, it'd be even harder for me to do it than it is now. So training's not going to work. But it's possible, and people do that. So in a similar way, Krishna has these amazing powers, and Prabhupada's explaining that it's natural. And then he quotes Jiva Goswami, who says we cannot understand Krishna if we don't accept the fact that his potencies are inconceivable, that it's beyond our capacity. Unless one understands Krishna's achintya shakti, that it's inconceivable. And then Prabhupada, again, just kind of highlighting some of the points in the purport, then Prabhupada gets a little heavy. When I was reading this, I was sensing Prabhupada's his urgency. This is getting near the end of Prabhupada's, manifest Leela in this world. So just like in the first canto, sometimes you read the purports in a sense like Prabhupada's like packing everything into one purport, again and again and again, from start to finish. So here also, it starts with know that Krishna is God, and it ends with if you understand him, you go back to Godhead, and it kind of makes the whole circle. So in this third or fourth paragraph, Prabhupada's a little heavy. Prabhupada, sometimes we get a little heavy. We should be careful when we imitate that. That's another point. But sometimes he gets a little heavy. So he says, right in the purport, he says, if you don't understand this, you're a fool. Right? That expression is there a lot of times. Krishna told Arjuna the same thing. You're a fool. You think you're so smart, but you're a fool. But it's interesting. Prabhupada says, you're a fool. But then the very next paragraph, he says, you're a fool if you don't understand it. Very next paragraph, he says, that's okay. Even Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, how did Krishna leave his body? I thought he was transcendental. So, of course, ultimately it's for our benefit that he asks those questions. But Prabhupada brings that in. You're a fool, but that's okay. That's all right. You have a doubt, that's okay. You're foolish, but still, it's okay to have a doubt. Just work your way through the doubt. And therefore explains further in his purport, all energies come from him. He's in control of everything. He makes the rules. Which logically, if you think, okay, who's Krishna? He's the one that makes the rules. So if he's making the rules, he can do anything he wants. So at least logically, people say it's not possible. Wait a minute. If there is a person, a powerful entity, intelligence that makes the rules, can he break the rules? Well, yeah, of course. Okay, so at least theoretically, if there is such a being. And in this reminds me, probably we give the example, he said like a prison warden. He's the controller of the prison house, but every once in a while he goes into the prison, walks up and down the hallways, maybe goes inside a cell. He might even close the door and check the lock. Does it work? Right? But he's not really in the prison. He's just inspecting the prison. He's always beyond the prison. So in the same way, Krishna here, we're seeing he appears in his four-armed form and so much opulence and all that, but then he turns himself into a little baby. Probably don't think it's ordinary. And Jiva Goswami says the same thing. And then from there he goes to the next point. He says, in the same way, Krishna can appear as still Krishna. He's still Krishna. Even if he appears as wood or stone, he's still Krishna. And then he warns, he just goes deeper and deeper on this point. Then he warns, don't think that the Lord is is ordinary, is material. And then he goes further, and don't think that the Vaishnava guru is ordinary. And even further, don't think that the Vaishnava can be defined by any kind of caste, any material designation. Don't think like that. And if you do, he references Shastra, then you're a resident of hell. So he goes right through the whole analysis. So, and then he concludes, Janma karma cha me divyam. If we know Krishna, if we understand his birth and his activities, which we're reading about here, he says, then you can attain Krishna. Then you can attain him. So, again, while I was reading this, I was just sensing a little bit of the urgency in Prabhupada's words, and that he packed so much into this purport. And I was almost feeling like he's transcendently shaking his readers. America, they had this religious group called the Shakers. A little different mood, different idea behind it, but it's like he's shaking us. You know, sometimes if somebody's asleep too heavily or there's some danger, you have to shake them a little bit, right? Not too much. You have to shake them a little bit, kind of wake them up. So I get that sense he's pleading with us, please understand this. And then he chastises the reader and whatever non-believer tendencies or doubts we may still have. He says, don't be foolish. Don't be foolish. And as Prabhupada Nugas, this is perhaps, I think, the most important part of this for us. One is, of course, be convinced of Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that we can take shelter of him and the potency in his name, and that he is in the deity, and he does hear his prayers, and he is in our heart, and he is our best friend, and he is trying to help us go back to him. That's, that's kind of the spoken word here and what Prabhupada is expressing. And it seems the mood or the theme is also this concept of urgency. The urgency of it. You know, Prabhupada is saying, don't be a fool. Understand that that's an urgent situation. So I was thinking that's just like in many places the Shastra, Upadeshamrita specifically talks about we have to tolerate the urges of the body, you know, the mind, the tongue, the senses, the genitals, the belly. We have to tolerate those urges. Just like in some of the communications courses that I help facilitate, sometimes we talk about when we interact with other people, we have the urge to speak. Isn't it? It's very powerful, the urge to speak. Very rarely do we have the urge to listen, isn't it? If any of you are married, brahmacharis, you're a more transcendental situation. Any of you that are married, you can ask your spouse, do you feel your husband or maybe your wife feels an urgent need to listen to you? I don't think so. But on the spiritual platform, Shravanam Kirtanam, the first thing we're supposed to do is hear, isn't it? So there's some urges that are good and there's some urges that aren't so good. Just like we may feel the urge of anger, but as Vaishnavas and yogis and devotees, we're meant to come to the stage of realization, okay, anger is there, but it's not me. I'm not angry. Sometimes people say, I'm angry. Actually, you're a fool. You're not angry. You're experiencing anger. And you're foolish enough or immature enough to surrender to that anger. It's not that I'm angry. I'm envious. I'm not envious. The modes of nature are coming in and clouding my conscience. I'm pure spirit soul. I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm not greedy. I'm not lusty. I'm not anything. These are just things that are sweeping into my consciousness. And as we get purified, we understand that more. So there's different types of urges. We're meant to subdue, to control, to tolerate, to ignore, to refuse, to surrender to the different lower urges. But here Prabhupada is expressing a different type of urge, which is transcendental, and which is Prabhupada Nugas we're meant to take into our hearts, which is a transcendental urge of trying to help other people, of course ourselves, but also other people awaken their Krishna consciousness. Just like in the verse, as explained, the Lord's body, the Lord's Leela, his transforming himself. Don't think, what's the term? Prakrita Shishu. Don't think he's an ordinary human being. So the same way the urge to share Krishna consciousness, it's not an ordinary urge. Just like people have the urge to, write a book and become famous. Or they have the urge to buy a lot of things, the urge to go someplace. This is not an ordinary urge. It's a spiritual urge that we should try to take up, the desire to share Krishna consciousness. It's very, very important. So how we do that, how we understand that urgency, the need to help others, the non-believers who don't understand Krishna's nature, how we understand that urge, how we express that urge is going to be different. Some of us, just like when I first got here just a week or so ago for some meetings, and as soon as I walked onto the campus, there was about 30 devotees having kirtan. Wonderful kirtan, dancing and jumping up and down. It looked really inspiring. So they're feeling the urge to go share the Lord's name in kirtan. And you walk down the path a little bit further, and there's devotees that have books out, and they feel the urge to share Prabhupada's books and other Vaishnava's books with people. And you look up, wow, look at that beautiful building. Some people are inspired, or the urge to use architecture as a way of glorifying Krishna and attracting Krishna. Of course, inside the temple, the Sri Sri Radha Madhava and the Lord and his Nrsimhadev and Panchatattva will be there. Some of us feel the urge, the inspiration to worship the deities very nicely. And it doesn't matter what those services are. I don't want to say but, and the inspiration for those services should, at least in part, if not largely, if not transcendently, achincha, beta tattva, inspired by the urgency. I want to address the deities to please the Lord, and also to inspire the devotees and the guests and the visitors and somebody that just walks in the door to be attracted to Krishna. I want to, maybe many managers here, we can manage with the mood. We need to manage things nicely so that people are attracted to come to Krishna. It's preaching. If we manage nicely, there's no difference between managing and preaching. There's no difference if our consciousness is right. Some people here in Mayapur, they practice law, So if that's completely preaching, if it's motivated by a desire to use the legal resources or our financial resources, or whatever we have to try to give people Krishna consciousness. So the inspiration, we should, when we hear these words, this sense of urgency from Prabhupada, again and again, practically on every page, we should pray to share that urgency, especially here in Mayapur. This is the land of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He traveled all over India. He sent his representatives, his devotees everywhere. Prabhupada and our whole parampara. I was just recently in Russia for the Sadhu Sangha, and I was asked to give class on about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I did, spent a couple days, did some research. And it's phenomenal to see how in that time and place, India was still under the British Raj. We're in Bengal now, there was the, what's the term? Anyway, there was this whole class of Bengalis who the British were educating in kind of the second tier of management. Bhadralok. And how they were being exposed to international ideas. Some of them were rejecting and just saying we have to stick with the tradition. Some of them were rejecting the tradition and becoming very westernized. Some of them were saying let's get rid of a lot of the tradition. And Bhaktivinoda was there standing firm with his urgency to spread Krishna's mission of saying no, we're going to look into the roots of the tradition. We're going to bring it into the modern era. We're going to use modern technology, modern means. We're not going to change the original, but we're going to package it in such a way. We're going to interact with people in such a way to bring Lord Chaitanya's message back to life, because it had kind of, quieted in many places. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so many of our acharyas, all the way down to us. So, we know there's disciplic succession. So there's a succession of teachers. There's also a succession of disciples. So when we say we're part of the disciplic succession, that means we're disciples. We've committed to the discipline of executing the mission of those before us. I remember my experience when I first joined ISKCON in Denver, Colorado. Every once in a while, somebody would like be in the ashram and they'd get initiated, and the next morning they'd be gone. And you kind of think like they didn't really pay much attention to those morning classes they were hearing, because somehow they're thinking it's like being baptized. They dip you in a bunch of water, you come up and you're saved. As they say in English, come hell or high water, you're okay. That's not our process. Our process is that initiation means to take it more seriously, to make a deeper commitment and to go on. So we should pray to have that urgency ourselves. We are Prabhupada Nugas. We want to have that urgency, and at the same time understand we are, as Prabhupada said, an international community. This is our international headquarters. And Prabhupada told GBC, he said, I want all the GBC and other senior devotees should come every year to Mayapur, discuss unity and diversity. Every year, he said that. Just like every day you chant 16 rounds, right? It's not like you do it on Tuesdays, done for Wednesday. Every day we should chant. So he said every year they should come here to discuss unity and diversity. Why? Why not just discuss it for 20 years? It means, like Prabhupada said, so 100 years from now, 500 years from now, 1,000, they better be coming here talking about unity and diversity. Right? I mean, maybe in the future, who knows? They'll be landing all their like airplanes from Mars and different planets to, green people and purple people and six-armed people and a few gorgeous demigods and devas, and they're going to tell, hey, unity and diversity. It's not like, no, the purple people can sit here, but the green people have to sit there. They may face that kind of challenge. Who knows? Because Prabhupada said every year we should discuss this. So, with this urgency to try to share Krishna consciousness, expressed in different ways, we need to know deeply that personalities are going to differ. We're a personalist movement. We're not impersonalists, right? We preach against impersonalism. That means we have to accept there is personalism. That means variety. Prabhupada would sometimes quote that English expression, variety is the spice of life. We all know sometimes life gets too spicy, isn't it? I mean, we all know a few people that we might consider too spicy. Maybe they consider us too spicy. Okay, but spice has to be there. So personalities are going to differ. Cultures are going to differ. It's an international movement. Now we want to bring that all under the umbrella of Vaishnavism, but there's going to be some cultural variation. I know I get to travel. You go to Germany, I mean, every place I've been, you're going to get bread for breakfast, bread for lunch, bread for dinner. You come here, like, you stand in line or wherever you are sitting for prasadam. When that Prabhu comes by with the rice, you better be watching what's going on your plate. You get a mound, you just say, excuse me, for what's your name? You look back and there's like a kilo of rice, isn't it? And then the sabjis come by and they put like a little sauce on top of the rice and they keep going. Like, wait. Sabji. Isn't it? I like more sabji, less rice. If I try to tell one of my Bengali friends, no, less rice, more sabji. Prabhu, why are you torturing me? Isn't it? There's some variety there. Even say, this is the home of the institute, the Deity Institute for Training Devotees. In fact, every year here they have the graduation and all that, different places. So, training devotees, guidelines how to dress the deities. But it's not that every day the deities dress the same way. I don't think they say, no, the peacock feather has to go to 45-degree angle, not a 52-degree angle, right? We don't say that, do we? There's guidelines, but there's variety there. As long as what? The goal is to please Krishna and attract others to Krishna. So as is described, as Prabhupada describes in his purport, we should be cautious in dealing with the deities. Near the end, he says, be very careful. Don't think the deities material. And he says, don't think the Vaishnava guru is material. Don't think that the other devotees are also ordinary. We should be very, very careful. And we should also, applying this, right? When we read the Shastra, we shouldn't just think, oh, that's a nice story about Krishna. Okay. Just meditating on the story is wonderful. But also, what does it mean for me when I walk out of the room how's my life going to be different based on what I heard today? You know? How's my faith going to be deeper? How's my expression of Krishna consciousness? Hopefully, at least some small step, be more deepened. So in this context, Prabhupada's saying be careful. Be cautious how we interact with devotees. Be convinced that Krishna is there. But be careful the way we interact with different devotees who may have a different mood and method and inspiration to serve Krishna, to please Krishna. I remember as a new devotee, I was early on was trained to go on Sankirtan. And I remember coming back one day and watching one of the senior devotees. He was building bunks for the brahmachari ashram. And I was watching, I was really puzzled. I said, Prabhu, how can you do this all day long? You need to get out and preach. How are you going to, isn't this kind of material? And he basically called me a fool and corrected me. What do you think I'm doing this for? It's for Krishna. That was a big lesson for me. You know, I'm going out and selling books, but he's making the bunk beds for the devotees to sleep who go out and sell the books. So isn't that connected? Of course it's connected. So sometimes our passion for sharing, spreading, teaching Krishna consciousness, our enthusiasm can overwhelm our inclusiveness. And sometimes it can overwhelm our wisdom. And, you know, we've seen the effect of that in the past. Sometimes I was part of this era, so it's part of my own maturing process. Sometimes in our early endeavors, and things are much better now in most places, hopefully all, and our enthusiasm to distribute a lot of books, sometimes that sense of urgency was counterproductive to some extent or the other, because we'd sell somebody a book and they'd walk down the hall and tear it up and tell 10 people how bad we are. So the sense of urgency was good, but the application was a little lacking. Okay, we were 20, whatever. When I first became a devotee, it was one brahmachari lived in the temple, was 29. He was so old. He used to take a hot shower after coming back from Sankirtan. We would just laugh. Those poor old joints and bones, he just had to warm them up to get through the day. You know, everybody was like 20, 22. So temple president was 24. Imagine that, 24. My son's 42. So the temple president was 24. So understandably, we lacked a little subtlety. So in so many ways, different things we do, you know, with our chanting, the way we interact with people. You know, we know now, if you get a permit and they tell you to end at 11 o'clock, you may have the power to go till 1 o'clock, right? They're not going to haul out the army and arrest you, but you're not going to get a permit next year. So, you know, somebody comes and goes, oh, Prabhu, we don't have to quit, it's only 11 o'clock, we're having a really blissful time, right? And the person who's more mature says, turn off the sound. Yeah, Prabhu, they're just karmis, what do they know? This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Prabhu, turn off the sound. Because they have a bigger vision. They understand the long-term impact. So, in the same way, we have to be careful, guided by Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, but also common sense. Prabhupada tells a story, you've all heard it, but it's a good story to remember, of the father who had several sons who each wanted to massage him. So one took the left leg, one took the right leg, one took the arm, one took the other arm. They started massaging. For what purpose? Please the father. But after a while, they become a little bewildered. Even in the midst of that service, somehow they become bewildered. They start thinking, I'm actually very important because I'm massaging my father. Which means the part of the body that I'm massaging is more important, isn't it? Your part's not so important. You're massaging an arm, I've got the leg. He can't even walk without his legs. Right? So Prabhupada explains like that. So they, you know, begin quarreling. Whose part's more important? And then not only quarreling, then they start pushing the, you know, that leg's not so important. Ah, what about the arm? No, that arm's not so important. And next they're like beating up the father. Right? And Prabhupada said, the father says, stop. You're hurting me. You're going to kill me. Stop. So in the name of their sense of urgency, enthusiasm to serve the Father, they lose all common sense. They lose all sense of vision, materialistic sense of This is my leg, I'm this leg, your leg's not important. Your mission to the, I'm a book distributor, deity worship isn't so important. Or I'm a pujari, cleaning's not so important. Or I'm into sewing, that's more important than taking care, or less important than taking care of Tulsi, whatever. We shouldn't think like that. We're a big movement. Prabhupada told us, we know a famous instruction, if you love me, he said that, if you love me, and I heard yesterday a little variety on it, he actually said, you may say some devotee had written a letter, Prabhupada, I just want to give my life, you're my heart and soul, and Prabhupada said something effective, that will be tested when I leave. Words are cheap. Oh, Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada, yeah, Prabhupada. But Prabhupada said the test of it, if we cooperate. So it's a challenge for us. We're a big movement. Braj Vihari Prabhu teaches a seminar called, some of you may have attended a lecture, Pasta or Pakoras, right? Again, you go to Germany, you get bread. You go to Italy, you get pasta. You come here, you get rice. Okay, there's different expressions of that. But Prabhupada emphasized that within that variety, within that diversity, there has to be unity. And first and foremost, that should be a priority for us. We have to be very careful. We tend to be, and I think from the scripture, understand all of us, we tend to be critical. We tend to be envious of others. We're insecure. That's where it starts. We are insecure because we're not connected to Krishna. And we allow ourselves to prop up that sense of insecurity by thinking I'm a little special important. I heard Prabhupada give a lecture one time about, he saw a man walking through Calcutta, Prabhupada said, carrying half-burnt wood. How valuable is half-burnt wood? It's like a log that's half-burnt. Prabhupada said that was his valuables. But he's thinking, I have something very important. So even with that, the ego comes in. So as devotees, we have to be very, very careful. I'm just a servant to the servant to the servant. And if Prabhuji, Mataji, young person, old person, white person, black person, brown person, highly educated person, uneducated person, pujari, book distributor, manager, attorney, mother, whatever people in the different services, if they're doing in a mood of devotion for Krishna, and especially if it's inspired by this mood of Prabhupada and our parampara of trying to do what we do to, just like a mother, okay, I'm a mom, I'm taking care of my child, and that's important service, extremely important service. Even a mom can think, let me raise this child who's so well loved and so well cared for. Other people would say to me, how do you raise your child with such love? Your child cries, you never get upset. Well, because I know he's Krishna's child. It's my duty to take care of him to the best of my ability. Even that's preaching, All of it, it's all connected. It's all, not even that. That also is preaching. It's another class, but it's extremely important. So just to summarize some of the points here. Point number one, Krishna is super cool. Super cool. They have superheroes. They got nothing on us. We got like the superhero of superheroes. And not only that, he's super lovable. And he likes to play funny tricks. Like the Sri Kavacha, I just noticed is sitting over here. He had a bit of a health challenge this year, serious one. He could have passed away. So every once in a while, Krishna kind of reminds us, hey, I'm there. Everything's cool. I'm watching you. I'm taking care of you. So he goes in he had to have an emergency operation. It was in some far-off corner of the world, like London or something, some weird place. So then anyway, somehow, I don't know the details, but then the surgeon, he's the ministry of deity, travels all around the world, teaches people deity ministry. Anybody know the name of his surgeon? Krishna Murti. Is that like a little reminder from the Supreme Transcendental? Isn't it? So just like he's telling, he appears in his opulent form, just so his parents, just want to make sure you're okay. I will be okay. I want you to see this first. I'm here, I'm with you, don't worry about a thing, you've been through a lot. I'm going to make myself into a baby, but be sure I'm here. So same way, don't worry. Krishna Murti, like a little, and he's funny too, isn't it? Krishna Murti, like, wow, that's really funny. That's like really funny. And he went into the surgery knowing that he was protected. So one, Krishna's super cool and he's super lovable. We're just scratching the surface, but Prabhupada's sharing this for each of us, scratching the surface of our heart to understand it. That's first point. Second, summary. It's our responsibility to go deep in the process and to realize that. We have gurus, we have, spiritual mentors, we have opportunities, but it's up to us to go deep in the process. Prabhupada is saying non-devotees, they don't believe. Why don't they believe? Because they don't apply themselves to the process. So we have some doubts. We have to apply ourselves to the process. Third principle, or point from here, summary. Most people, as pointed out also in Prabhupada's most people can't understand Krishna. They don't understand he's the best friend, the supreme superhero, and everything else, the supreme lovable. They don't understand. And therefore, to whatever extent we do understand it, we share the urgency. Wherever we are, whoever we are, whatever our service is, rich, poor, black, white, etc., we share the urgency. Whether we're in Washington, D.C., or London, or Mayapur, we should think, what can I do to make sure this message is carried forward? Srila Prabhupada felt that urgency, and if he didn't, none of us would be here. He felt that urgency, so we should try to feel that urgency. And then the last summary. But in that urgency, we should be very careful to know there's going to be variety. I was going by this clock. I got 2 minutes here. I'll just finish up. Within that urgency, we should know there will be, and there is, and it's wonderful, and it's beautiful, and it's required. There's going to be varieties in service. There's going to be varieties in expressions of that. There's going to be varieties in ways that we serve. There's going to be different moods. There's going to be different gurus. There's going to be different expressions of our Krishna bhakti. So we shouldn't allow ourselves to be carried away in my own enthusiasm and not appreciate what others are doing, or even unnecessarily criticize, or even intentionally or unintentionally minimize or undermine what others are doing. That's what the material world's all about, minimizing and undermining what other people are doing. So you may like pizza, I may like pakoras. Let's celebrate that. And as Prabhupada said, we're cooperative to share his mission. Because especially here, this is really, I feel this is kind of at least one of the essential messages of this purport. It's certainly the essence of Lord Chaitanya's movement, and I think it's the essence of Sri Mayapur Dham. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the sign says quit. So I should quit. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
करना चाहिए। आसानी से भक्ति नहीं होता है, तपस्या करनी पड़ती है, जैसे माता देवकी ने किया, तब कृष्ण प्राप्त